The dim glow of neon lights flickered across the crowded bar on the outer rim station of Zerathia Prime, a sprawling hub where the galaxy's misfits gathered to drown their sorrows in exotic liquors. Thorne, a rugged human pilot from the distant blue marble called Earth, nursed his drink at the far end of the counter. His leather jacket, scarred from countless asteroid runs, hung loosely over his broad shoulders, and his eyes, sharp, hazel, and weary from years of dodging interstellar customs, scanned the room with the instinct of a man who'd seen too many deals go south. He wasn't here for trouble. Just a quick refuel before jumping to the next freight haul, but trouble, as it often did in places like this, found him first. The air was thick with the hum of alien tongues, a cacophony of clicks, hisses, and guttural growls blending with the synthetic beats pulsing from hidden speakers. Thorne caught sight of her almost by accident, a vision that stood out like a supernova in the murky haze. She was Lira Kane, though he didn't know her name yet. Her hair cascaded like fresh-fallen snow down her back, white and shimmering under the lights, framing a face of ethereal beauty. Her skin was pale as moonlit porcelain, flawless and glowing faintly, as if she carried her own inner light. Small, pointed ears peeked through her locks, delicate like those of ancient earth elves from forgotten myths, adding an exotic allure that made her seem both fragile and untouchable. She wore a dress that hugged her curves with elegant audacity, silken fabric in deep crimson, low-cut to reveal the graceful swell of her bosom, and slit high along one thigh to hint at the lithe, sensual form beneath. It was the attire of someone who commanded attention, not begged for it, and in this den of rogues, it screamed wealth and danger. Lira sat alone at a high table, her posture regal amid the chaos, sipping from a crystal flute that probably cost more than Thorne's entire ship, but her eyes, vivid violet, piercing and intelligent, betrayed a flicker of unease. Around her, a group of interstellar thugs had begun to circle, their intentions as clear as the blasters holstered at their sides. They were a motley crew, hulking Vorlax with armored hides, sly Zerathia with tentacles twitching eagerly, and a snarling pack of Nethurian mercenaries whose fangs gleamed in the low light. They muttered in low tones, their gazes locked on her like predators sizing up prey. Thorne overheard snippets, something about a ransom, a family fortune that spanned star systems. She was no ordinary traveler. She was the heiress to the Kane dynasty, rulers of vast mining empires across the Lunara sector. The richest bloodline in the galaxy. He should have looked away, minded his own business. Humans like him were rare out here, often dismissed as primitive upstarts in a universe dominated by ancient alien civilizations. But something stirred in Thorne, a stubborn spark of earthborn chivalry, or maybe just the thrill of the fight, as one of the thugs, a burly Vorlax with spikes protruding from his shoulders, reached out to grab her arm. Lyra's eyes met Thorne's across the room. A silent plea, raw and vulnerable, cut through the noise. In a blur, Thorne was on his feet. "Hey, Spikehead," he called out, his voice steady but laced with that unmistakable human grit. "Hands off the lady, she's not interested in your kind of party." The bar fell silent for a heartbeat, then erupted, the Vorlax world, roaring as he charged. Thorne dodged the first swing, his reflexes honed from piloting through meteor storms. He countered with a solid punch to the alien's gut, feeling the armored hide give way just enough to stagger the beast, but the others piled on, tentacles lashing, fangs snapping. Thorne grabbed a nearby stool, swinging it like a club to crack against a Zerath's skull, the impact sending viscous fluid splattering across the floor. He weaved through the melee, his human agility surprising them. Aliens often underestimated how Earth's gravity had forged bodies built for endurance and quick thinking. A Nethurian lunged, claws extended, aiming for his throat. Thorne sidestepped, grabbing the creature's arm and twisting it with a sickening crack, using its momentum to hurl it into a table that shattered under the weight. Blasters were drawn now, but in the close quarters, it was fists and fury. Thorne took a hit to the ribs from a Vorlax elbow, pain exploding like a starburst, but he pressed on, his mind racing with tactics. Feint left, strike right, use the environment. He overturned a bar cart, sending bottles crashing to create a slippery barrier, then vaulted over the counter to grab a plasma torch used for mixing drinks. Igniting it, he waved the flame like a sword, forcing the thugs back as acrid smoke filled the air. Lira watched, her violet eyes wide with a mix of fear and fascination. This human stranger moved with a raw power she'd never seen in the polished guards of her family's estates. He was no elegant duelist. He was a force of nature, improvised and unrelenting. As the last thug fell, groaning on the floor amid shattered glass and spilled ale, Thorne stood panting, blood trickling from a cut on his brow. The bar patrons stared in awe. Humans were legends out here, stories of their tenacity whispered in the void. She approached him then, her heels clicking softly on the debris-strewn floor. Up close, her scent was intoxicating, a blend of exotic spices and starlit flowers. You saved me," she whispered, her voice melodic, with a faint alien lilt that sent shivers down his spine. Her hand touched his arm, light as a feather, but electric. "Those were assassins sent by rivals to my throne. I am Lira Kane, heiress of Zerathia, and you, human, what's your name?" "Thorne," he grunted, wiping blood from his lip. "Just Thorne, now. Let's get you out of here before reinforcements show." But as they slipped toward the exit, evading the curious gazes, she stopped him in the shadowed alcove, her eyes locked onto his, intense and unyielding. "Wait," she said, her breath warm against his ear. "You've risked everything for a stranger. I owe you more than words, but tell me, will you stay if I undress?" The words hung in the air, bold and provocative, her lips curving into a seductive smile that promised secrets of the stars. Thorne froze, his heart pounding not from the fight, but from the raw allure in her gaze. In that moment, the galaxy shifted, a simple rescue turning into something far more dangerous, a temptation that could bind him to her world forever. As they burst out into the neon-drenched streets of the station, alarms blaring in the distance, Thorne gripped her hand, pulling her toward his docked ship. The assassin's comrades were surely closing in, their ships slicing through the void like shadows. Lyra's dress fluttered in the artificial wind, revealing glimpses of her porcelain skin, and Thorne couldn't shake the echo of her words. What kind of game was this heiress playing? Humans and aliens mingled in trade, but alliances like this intimate, charged with desire, were the stuff of forbidden tales. They dodged through the throngs of merchants and spacers, her small elfin ears twitching at every sound, a remnant of her Zerathian heritage that heightened her senses. "My family's enemies are relentless," she explained breathlessly as they ran. "They want my inheritance, the crystal mines that power half the galaxy's tech. But you're different, stronger than they anticipated." Thorne's ship, the battered but reliable Earthbound Fury, loomed ahead in the docking bay. He punched in the access code, the ramp lowering with a hydraulic hiss. Inside, the cockpit was a mess of human ingenuity, jury-rigged controls, Earth memorabilia like a faded photo of the Grand Canyon pinned to the dash. Lira stepped in, her elegant form contrasting sharply with the utilitarian space, and as the doors sealed, she turned to him again. "That offer," she said, her voice dropping to a husky whisper, "wasn't idle. In Zerathia, we seal debts with more than credits. Let me show you gratitude. Human style, if that's what you crave." Her fingers traced the edge of her dress, teasing the fabric as if ready to reveal more. Thorne swallowed hard, the adrenaline from the brawl mixing with a surge of unexpected heat. "Lady, I'm just a pilot, not some knight in shining armor, but if staying means keeping you safe, yeah, I'll stick around." As the engines roared to life, propelling them into the starry expanse, Lira leaned closer, her white hair brushing his shoulder. The pursuit was on, assassin drones flickering on the scanners, but in that confined space, the air crackled with possibility. Thorne plotted a course through the nearest nebula, a swirling cloud of gas that could hide them, his mind racing not just with evasion tactics, but with the enigma of this alien beauty who just upended his life. Hours blurred into the hum of hyperspace, the nebula's colors painting the view screen in ethereal hues of purple and gold. Lira sat beside him, her presence a distraction he couldn't ignore. She spoke of her world, Zerathia, a planet of floating cities and ancient crystals that hummed with energy, where her family ruled with a blend of diplomacy and iron will. "Humans are myths to us," she admitted, her violet eyes tracing his profile. "Stories of warriors who conquered their own world with sheer will. Is it true you once split atoms to harness stars?" Thorne chuckled, a deep, resonant sound that filled the cockpit. "Something like that. We're stubborn, that's for sure. Don't give up easy." Her hand rested on his thigh, light but intentional, sending a jolt through him. "Then don't give up on me," she murmured. "Those thugs were just the beginning. My rivals will hunt us across the sectors. But with you, I feel invincible." As alerts pinged enemy ships emerging from the nebula's edge, Thorne gripped the controls, diving into a daring maneuver. The ship twisted through debris fields, lasers grazing the hull in brilliant flashes. He outmaneuvered them with human flair, using the nebula's magnetic interference to jam their sensors, a trick he'd learned smuggling goods past Earth patrols. Lira watched in awe, her body pressed against his in the G-forces, her scent enveloping him like a promise. Finally, shaking the pursuers, they emerged into clear space, hearts racing. Lyra's gratitude spilled over then, her lips brushing his in a tentative kiss that ignited like fusion. "Stay," she whispered against his mouth. "Let me undress the walls between us." The galaxy stretched endless before them. But in that moment, Thorne knew he was hooked, drawn into a web of romance, danger, and the unyielding spirit of humanity that could conquer even the stars. The kiss lingered like the afterglow of a supernova, warm and insistent, pulling Thorne deeper into the vortex of her world. Lyra's lips were soft, tasting of the sweet nectar from her crystal flute back at the bar, mixed with the faint metallic tang of adrenaline, her body pressed against his in the pilot's seat, the confines of the cockpit turning intimate, almost claustrophobic, as the ship's hum vibrated through them both. Thorne's hands found her waist instinctively, fingers splaying over the silken fabric of her dress, feeling the heat of her skin beneath. She was alien. Yes, those delicate pointed ears brushing his cheek like velvet whispers, but in this moment, she felt achingly human, vulnerable and alive. He pulled back just enough to catch his breath, his hazel eyes searching her violet ones in the dim glow of the console lights. "Lira," he murmured, his voice roughened by the fight and the fire building inside him. "This, whatever this is, it's moving fast. We're jumping sectors with assassins on our tail, and you're talking about undressing walls?" A sly smile curved her lips, her white hair falling forward like a curtain of starlight. Framing the elegant lines of her face, she shifted in his lap, her thigh brushing his with deliberate slowness, sending sparks racing up his spine. "In Zerathia, we don't waste time on pretenses. Thorne, life among the stars is fleeting, empires rise and crumble in the blink of a nebula. You saved me, risked everything. Let me show you what gratitude truly means." Her fingers trailed down his chest, tracing the scars beneath his jacket, each touch a promise laced with mystery. The ship's alarms chirped softly, a reminder that safety was an illusion. Scanners showed faint blips, distant echoes of pursuit ships probing the nebula's fringes. Thorne glanced at the view screen, his pilot's instincts kicking in. "We can't stay here long. That nebula bought us time, but they'll adapt. Your family's enemies, who are they exactly? Rivals from Orvian, or something closer to home?" Lyra's expression darkened for a fleeting second, her pointed ears twitching as if catching unseen frequencies, but then she leaned in again, her breath warm against his neck, distracting him with the subtle curve of her body. "Later," she whispered, her voice a silken thread weaving through the tension. "For now, let me distract you from the shadows." He reached for the zipper of his jacket, pulling it down with agonizing slowness, exposing the taut muscles of his chest, marked by old wounds from Earth's forgotten wars and galactic skirmishes. Her touch was exploratory, fingers dancing lightly over his skin, eliciting a low groan from deep in his throat. Thorne's resolve wavered, the erotic pull of her proximity clashing with the suspense of their predicament. He captured her hand, holding it against his heart, feeling its rapid beat mirror hers. "You're playing with fire, Heiress. Humans burn hot, but we don't extinguish easy." Yet even as he spoke, his other hand slid up her back, fingers tangling in her white locks, pulling her closer. The dress she wore, that crimson temptation, clung to her like a second skin, accentuating the swell of her breasts and the graceful flare of her hips. Her daw, white as fresh snow, glowed faintly in the cockpit's light, an otherworldly luminescence that made her seem like a dream manifested from the void. She arched into him, her small elfin ears brushing his jaw, sending shivers through him. "Then let me feel that fire," she purred, her violet eyes half-lidded with desire. With a fluid motion, she slipped the strap of her dress off one shoulder, revealing more of her porcelain skin, smooth and inviting. The fabric pooled slightly, hinting at the curves beneath, and Thorne's breath caught. This wasn't just gratitude, it was a seduction born of survival, a bond forged in the heat of escape. Her body moved against his, rhythmic and teasing, building a tension that mirrored the growing hum of the engines as he plotted their next jump. But the universe had other plans. A sudden jolt rocked the ship, a proximity alert blaring as a cloaked drone emerged from the nebula's mists, firing a warning shot that grazed their shields. Thorne swore under his breath, shoving Lira gently but firmly into the co-pilot's seat as he grabbed the controls. "Strap in, playtime's over for now." The drone was sleek, a Zerathian design with adaptive camouflage, its weapons humming with plasma energy. Thorne banked hard, the fury twisting through the gas clouds, colors swirling like a psychedelic storm around them. Lyra's dress strap still hung loose, a distracting glimpse of vulnerability amid the chaos, but her eyes sharpened with focus. "It's one of my uncle's hunters," she said, her voice steady despite the erotic haze lingering between them. "He wants the throne for himself. Disable it before it calls reinforcements." Thorne grinned fiercely, that human tenacity surging. "Hold on." He flipped switches, diverting power to the thrusters, and dove toward a dense pocket of ionized gas. The drone followed, its lasers slicing through the void, one bolt impacting the hull with a shuddering boom. Sparks flew in the cockpit, but Thorne held course, his mind calculating trajectories with the precision of a born spacer. He lured the drone closer, then activated a countermeasures burst, flares exploding in brilliant arcs, blinding its sensors. Seizing the moment, he spun the ship, aligning the Fury's cannons. The first shot missed, glancing off the drone's shields, but the second pierced through, erupting in a cascade of debris. The drone spiraled, trailing fire, before vanishing in a silent explosion against the nebula's backdrop. Thorne exhaled, sweat beading on his brow, the victory fueling the adrenaline already coursing through him. Lira unstrapped herself, crossing the short distance to him, her movements graceful and predatory. "You handle danger like it's an art," she breathed, sliding back into his lap, her exposed shoulder pressing against his chest. The heat between them reignited instantly, the suspense of the chase amplifying every touch. Her fingers resumed their path, lower now, tracing the buckle of his belt with teasing intent. "Now, where were we?" Thorne's hands roamed her back, pulling her flush against him, feeling the rapid rise and fall of her breaths. "Your trouble, Lira Kane," he murmured, his lips finding the curve of her neck, tasting the faint glow of her skin. She gasped softly, her body responding with a shiver that sent waves of desire crashing over him. The dress slipped further, revealing the elegant lines of her form, glowing, sensual, alien yet irresistibly familiar, as their kisses deepened, hands exploring with growing urgency. The galaxy outside faded, but in the back of Thorne's mind, a thread of suspense lingered, the knowledge that this was just the beginning. Her uncle's forces wouldn't stop. The chase was far from over. Yet here, in this stolen moment, with her whispers urging him on, he surrendered to the pull, letting the erotic dance unfold amid the stars. She guided his hand to the hem of her dress, lifting it slightly to reveal the smooth expanse of her thigh, her skin warm and inviting under his palm. "Undress me," she invited, her voice a husky command laced with vulnerability. Thorne obliged, his fingers trembling slightly, not from fear, but from the intensity of the connection. The fabric whispered as it rose, exposing more of her, each inch a revelation that heightened the erotic tension. Her pointed ears flushed a soft pink, a Zerathian tell of arousal, and she moaned quietly as his touch ventured higher. The cockpit's lights dimmed automatically for night cycle, casting them in a soft, intimate glow. Lyra's white hair spilled over them like a veil, her violet eyes locking onto his with an intensity that made his pulse race. "Humans are so direct," she teased, her hands working to free him from his constraints, each movement deliberate and electrifying. The air grew thick with their shared breaths. The suspense of potential interruption, another alert, another enemy adding a thrilling edge to their intimacy. Thorne lifted her slightly, positioning her with care, their bodies aligning in a rhythm as old as the stars. She arched back, her form a vision of grace and desire, the dress now a rumpled cascade around her waist. The connection was profound, a blend of raw passion and the exotic unfamiliarity of her alien physiology, subtle differences that only heightened the experience, making every sensation new and intoxicating. As they moved together, the ship's gentle vibrations syncing with their pace, Lyra's whispers turned to gasps, her nails digging into his shoulders. The erotic build was suspenseful in its own right, teetering on the edge of release, drawn out by stolen glances at the scanners, ensuring no immediate threats loomed. Thorne's earthborn resilience shone through, his stamina a testament to humanity's unyielding spirit, driving them both toward a crescendo that echoed through the void. In the aftermath, as they lay entangled in the afterglow, Lira traced patterns on his chest, her voice soft. "This is just the start. Thorne, my world awaits and its dangers, but with you, I feel ready." The words hung heavy, a promise wrapped in peril, as the ship hurtled onward, the nebula giving way to uncharted space. The stars blurred into streaks as the earthbound fury sliced through the void, leaving the nebula's colorful embrace behind for the stark emptiness of uncharted sectors. Lira nestled against Thorne's chest, her breathing steady now, a soft rhythm that contrasted the wild thrum of his heart. The intimacy they'd shared lingered like a charged atmosphere, her skin still flushed with that faint Zerathian glow. Her white hair draped over them both in disarray. But even in this quiet aftermath, Thorne's senses prickled. Years of piloting through hostile space had taught him that peace was always a prelude to storm. He glanced at the scanners, the green glow reflecting in his hazel eyes, and felt a knot tighten in his gut. Faint signals danced at the edge of detection, ghosts in the machine that could be debris, or something far more sinister. Lira stirred, her violet eyes opening with a lazy contentment that quickly sharpened as she read his tension. "What is it?" she whispered, her pointed ears perking up, attuned to frequencies beyond human hearing, her hand, still resting on his thigh, squeezed gently, a reminder of their connection amid the growing unease. "Could be nothing," Thorne replied, his voice low and measured, though his fingers already danced over the controls, boosting sensor resolution. But out here, nothing usually means trouble waiting to pounce. As if on cue, the console beeped, a priority alert flashing red. Incoming vessels, 3 of them, closing fast from the rear quadrant, not drones this time. These were capital-class hunters, sleek and armed to the teeth, bearing the insignia of Orvian enforcers. Thorne's mind raced, her uncle's allies, or a new player in this galactic Game of Thrones. Lira bolted upright, her dress hastily adjusted. The crimson fabric now a symbol of haste rather than seduction. "They're faster than us," she said, her tone shifting to one of calculated urgency. She leaned over the co-pilot console, her fingers flying across alien interfaces that synced seamlessly with the ship systems, Zerathian tech adapting to human engineering like old friends. "My uncle must have called in favors. Those ships, they're equipped with warp inhibitors. If they catch us, we'll be sitting ducks." The thrill of the chase ignited in Thorne's veins, a dramatic surge that turned fear into fuel. He punched the thrusters to full, the Fury groaning under the strain as it accelerated toward a nearby asteroid belt, a jagged labyrinth of rock and ice that could either hide them or become their tomb. "Then we make them work for it," he growled, his earthborn resilience kicking in like a second engine. The pursuers fired warning shots, plasma bolts streaking past the viewport in brilliant arcs, close enough to rattle the hull and send sparks flying from overloaded shields. Lyra's eyes widened, a mix of curiosity and surprise flickering across her features. "You're enjoying this," she accused, though a hint of admiration laced her words. She strapped in tighter, her body tense, the elegant curve of her form now poised like a warrior queen. "Survival's a rush," Thorne admitted, banking sharply to weave into the asteroids. The first hunter ship loomed larger on the view screen, its cannons charging with ominous hums. He executed a daring spiral, using a massive boulder as cover, the ship's frame creaking in protest. Debris pinged off the exterior like hail, but he pushed on, his mind mapping the field in real time, human intuition outpacing the aliens' predictive algorithms. A bolt struck true, slamming into the rear shields and sending the Fury into a spin. Alarms wailed, lights flickering as systems fought to stabilize. Lira cried out, gripping the armrests, her white hair whipping around her face. "Thorne, the engines? Hold on," he shouted, overriding safeties to dump auxiliary power into stabilizers. The ship righted itself just in time to avoid colliding with a spinning rock fragment, but the hunters were closing, their formation tightening like a noose. The lead vessel hailed them, a holographic projection bursting into the cockpit, a stern Orvian commander. His scaled face twisted in smug triumph. "Heiress Kane, surrender now, your human pet can't save you from the inevitable." Lyra's response was a defiant glare, but Thorne cut the transmission with a flick. "Pet, I'll show them." In a surprising maneuver, he reversed thrust abruptly, using the asteroid's gravity to slingshot back toward the pursuers. The move caught them off guard, the thrill of the unexpected turning the tide. He targeted the lead ship's weak point, an exposed ventral array, firing a volley of torpedoes that exploded in a cascade of fire and shrapnel. The commander's ship's shields buckled, venting atmosphere in silent plumes, but the other 2 adapted, unleashing a barrage that forced Thorne into evasive rolls. The cockpit shook violently, Lyra's hand reaching out to clasp his amid the chaos. "Why risk this for me?" she asked, her voice barely audible over the din, curiosity burning in her violet gaze. "Because humans don't back down," Thorne replied, his tone dramatic, laced with the weight of untold stories from Earth's history, tales of underdogs toppling empires. Another hit grazed them, systems failing one by one, navigation glitching, life support flickering. The climax built like a storm, thrilling and relentless, every second a razor edge between victory and oblivion. In a moment of pure inspiration, Thorne spotted it, a rogue comet tailing through the belt, its icy tail laced with volatile gases. "This is gonna be close," he warned, plotting an intercept course. Lyra's eyes met his, surprise mingling with trust, her pointed ears flattening slightly in anticipation. He dove toward the comet, the hunters hot on their trail, cannons blazing, as they skimmed the comet's surface. Thorne ignited the Fury's afterburners, superheating the gases behind them. The pursuers flew straight into the trap, the volatile mix exploding in a massive fireball that engulfed one ship entirely and crippled the other. Debris scattered like confetti across the void, the surviving hunter limping away in retreat. The Fury emerged battered but whole, drifting into safer space as repairs auto-engaged. Thorne slumped back, adrenaline crashing, but Lira unstrapped herself, crossing to him with a surge of emotion. You turned the impossible into reality." She breathed, her hands cupping his face, pulling him into a fierce kiss that tasted of victory and wonder. But as their lips parted, a new alert pinged, an encrypted message slicing through the static. She accessed it, her expression shifting from elation to shock. "It's from my family's inner circle," she said, her voice trembling with curiosity and surprise. The hologram revealed a face Thorne didn't recognize, a Zerathian elder, his features etched with urgency. "Lira, the throne is compromised. Your uncle isn't the only threat. There's a betrayer among us, and evidence points to someone closer than you think." Thorne's brow furrowed, the dramatic revelation hanging like a sword. "Who?" he demanded, the thrill of survival giving way to a new layer of intrigue. The elder's image flickered. "Your own advisor, the one who arranged your bar meeting. He's been selling secrets to Orvian. But there's more. The crystal mines hold a secret weapon, one that could shift the balance of power. You must return to Zerathia, with allies you trust." Lyra's hand tightened on Thorne's, her violet eyes wide with the weight of betrayal. "My advisor? He's been with me for years." The surprise rippled through her, curious questions bubbling up. How deep did the conspiracy go? What was this secret weapon? As the ship autopiloted toward a neutral waypoint for repairs, Thorne pulled her close, the cockpit filled with the hum of unresolved tension. "We'll uncover it together," he vowed, his human determination a beacon in the uncertainty. But deep down, a thrilling doubt crept in. What if the betrayer was even closer? Hidden in plain sight, the galaxy's shadows deepened, promising more surprises in the stars ahead. Yet even as they plotted their next move, a faint sensor blip reappeared, something small, cloaked, trailing them like a whisper. Thorne magnified it, heart racing anew. It wasn't a ship. It was a probe, broadcasting their position. The chase wasn't over. It had evolved into something far more insidious. Lira leaned in, her breath quickening. "They're adapting, learning from you." Her touch on his arm was electric, a reminder that amid the drama, their bond was the anchor. But the climax of this leg loomed, a daring jump to Zerathia, straight into the heart of deception. Thorne engaged the warp drive, the stars elongating as they hurtled forward. "Then let's give them a show they'll never forget." The ship vanished into hyperspace, leaving the asteroids behind, but carrying the weight of revelations that could shatter empires. In the warp's ethereal glow, Lyra's curiosity peaked. What if the secret weapon is tied to humans? Legends say your kind once wielded powers that rivaled our crystals. Thorne smiled faintly, surprised by the notion, his mind whirling with possibilities. The thrill built, dramatic and unrelenting, as Zerathia's coordinates locked in a homecoming fraught with peril, where alliances would be tested and truths unveiled in surprising ways. The hyperspace tunnel enveloped the earthbound Fury in a mesmerizing swirl of elongated stars, a cocoon of warped reality that shielded them from the immediate threats lurking in normal space. Thorne adjusted the warp parameters slightly, buying them precious hours before emerging near Zerathia's orbital defenses, his mind buzzing with the Elder's cryptic warning and Lyra's intriguing speculation about human legends tying into her family's secrets. Her body still closed to his, a warm anchor in the cockpit's confines. She tilted her head, those violet eyes sparkling with a mix of drama and genuine wonder. "Tell me more about your Earth's tales," she urged, her pointed ears perking forward like curious antennas. "If our crystals hold a weapon linked to your kind, perhaps it's no coincidence you crashed into my life like a meteor." Thorne chuckled, a deep rumble that cut through the hum of the engines, though the humor felt edged with the mounting drama of their situation. "Crashed is right. Back home, we'd call this a bad rom-com setup. Guy saves girl in a bar, ends up dodging lasers and family drama across the galaxy. But legends? Humans have plenty: Atlantis, ancient tech buried under oceans, or the pyramids, built with secrets that could power cities. If your minds have something similar, maybe our ancestors weren't as primitive as the stars think. Lyra's laughter tinkled like crystal chimes, light and melodic, but it carried an undercurrent of tension as she shifted in her seat, her crimson dress riding up slightly in a way that drew his gaze despite the seriousness. Rom-com? What's that, some human ritual? She leaned in, her white hair brushing his arm, creating an awkward intimacy in the already cramped space. The ship's autopilot beeped softly, confirming their trajectory. But Thorne couldn't shake the sensor ghost from earlier, that cloaked probe, now likely piggybacking their warp signature like an unwanted hitchhiker. Before he could explain the concept of romantic comedies, the console erupted in a flurry of alerts, red lights pulsing like a heartbeat gone wild. Incoming distortion, Thorne muttered, his humor evaporating as he gripped the controls. The hyperspace field shimmered unnaturally, ripples forming ahead like water disturbed by an unseen predator. Lyra's hand flew to her mouth, her elegant form tensing. It's a warp snare, my uncle's tech. They're pulling us out early. Drama escalated in an instant as the fury lurched, hyperspace tearing open prematurely with a gut-wrenching groan. They burst into real space far from Zerathia's safe havens, instead materializing amid a derelict ship graveyard, a floating mausoleum of ancient wrecks from long-forgotten wars, orbiting a gas giant's stormy rings. The probe had done its job, leading the hunters straight to them. 3 more Orvian cruisers materialized in a triangular ambush, their hulls gleaming with predatory intent. Weapons locks acquiring the fury with chilling efficiency. Strap in tight, Thorne barked, but Lyra was already moving, her fingers dancing over auxiliary controls to boost shields. In the chaos, her dress caught on a loose panel, ripping slightly at the hem with an audible tear. She froze for a split second, cheeks flushing that soft pink, awkwardness blooming amid the peril as she tugged it down. Exposing a glimpse of her thigh, Thorne caught the moment, a wry grin cracking his face despite the lasers charging outside. Timing's impeccable. Save the striptease for after we survive this. Yeah. Her violet eyes rolled in exaggerated exasperation, a hint of humor lightening the drama even as the first salvo rocked their ship. Humans and their jokes in the face of death, charming or utterly mad. But she smiled, the exchange injecting a bizarre levity into the heightened stakes. The cruisers closed in, their comms hacking through, the same scaled commander from before, his holographic sneer larger than life. No more games, Heiress, surrender the human, and perhaps we'll let you limp home to your crumbling throne. Thorne ignored the taunt, diving the fury into the graveyard's tangled web of debris. Massive hull fragments loomed like skeletal giants, providing erratic cover as he weaved through them. A plasma bolt sheared off a nearby Rex antenna, sending it spinning toward them. Thorne barrel-rolled to avoid it, the G-forces pressing them back into their seats. Lyra yelped, her hand accidentally brushing the emergency flare button in the jostle, launching a burst of colorful pyrotechnics that lit up the void like a misguided fireworks show. Oops, she muttered, the awkward mishap drawing a bark of laughter from Thorne. Great, now we're a floating disco ball. Might as well paint a target on us. The humor was gallows-sharp, but it fueled his focus. The cruisers pursued relentlessly, one clipping a derelict engine pod that exploded in a chain reaction, forcing the formation to scatter. Drama intensified as Thorne spotted an opportunity, a massive carrier husk, its bay doors ajar like a yawning maw. Hold your breath, he said, aiming straight for it. Lyra's grip tightened on his arm, her nails digging in with a mix of fear and trust. They plunged into the carrier's bowels, the Fury's lights piercing the darkness to reveal corridors choked with floating wreckage. The lead cruiser followed, too eager, its bulk scraping against the entrance with sparks flying. Inside, the confined space turned the chase into a deadly game of cat and mouse. Thorne navigated blind corners, using the ship's scanners to map the labyrinth in real time. A sudden ambush from a side passage, automated defense turrets, relics from the old war, activated by their presence, fired wildly, catching the pursuing cruiser off guard. Its shields flared, but a lucky hit breached the hull, venting crew into the vacuum. Lyra cheered softly, but the victory was short-lived. The second cruiser blockaded the exit, while the third flanked from an adjacent breach. They're hurting us, she realized, her voice laced with dramatic urgency. In the tension, she reached for a toolkit under her seat, her movements causing another awkward snag, her pointed ear catching on a dangling wire, yanking her head back with a comical jolt. Oh, this ship is a death trap. She grumbled, freeing herself with a huff, white hair tousled like a storm cloud. Thorne stifled a laugh, the humor a brief respite. Welcome to human engineering, built to last, with a side of surprises. He spotted a cluster of volatile fuel cells drifting in a cargo hold ahead. Time for some fireworks of our own. Maneuvering deftly, he lured the flanking cruiser closer, then fired a precise shot into the cells. The explosion was spectacular, a blooming inferno that engulfed the enemy vessel, its screams echoing over open channels before silence fell. But the drama peaked as the blockade cruiser unleashed a tractor beam, snaring the Fury mid-escape. The ship shuddered, engines straining against the pull. Lira's face paled, her elegant poise cracking under the strain. Thorne, if we don't break free, she trailed off, the unspoken horrors of capture hanging heavy torture, forced alliances, the end of her line. He worked frantically, rerouting power to create a feedback loop. Not today. With a surge, the beam destabilized, but not before dragging them perilously close to the cruiser's guns. In a desperate gambit, Thorne activated the Fury's mining laser, a jury-rigged addition from his smuggling days, slicing into the enemy's emitter. The beam snapped, flinging them free, but the recoil sent the Fury tumbling toward the gas giant's atmosphere. Alarms blared as they skimmed the stormy clouds, lightning arcs dancing across the hull. Lira clung to him, her body pressed close in the turmoil, an awkward tangle of limbs that sparked unintended intimacy amid the fear. If we burn up, at least it'll be together. She quipped weakly, her humor mirroring his own to mask the dread. Thorne wrestled the controls, pulling up just in time, the ship groaning like a wounded beast as they broke free into open space. The remaining cruiser, damaged from the explosion's fallout, limped away, broadcasting a retreat signal. Breathless, they shared a look, drama etched in sweat and relief, awkward from the close calls, yet lightened by their shared absurdity. As systems stabilized, Lira smoothed her torn dress, a sheepish smile breaking through. You humans turned disaster into entertainment, but that advisor betrayal, we need a plan for Zerathia. Thorne nodded, plotting the final approach, but a new ping interrupted, an incoming hail from the planet's surface, unmarked and encrypted. Answering it revealed not the Elder, but a hooded figure in shadows. Heiress, your return is anticipated, but beware the welcoming committee. The secret weapon in the mines, it's a human artifact. Buried eons ago, your uncle knows, and he's not alone. The revelation hung, heightening the drama further. As awkward questions swirled, how did humans factor into Zerathian history? And who was this mysterious ally? Lira's hand found Thorne's again, squeezing with a mix of curiosity and trepidation. Looks like our rom-com just got a plot twist. He joked, eliciting a genuine laugh from her. They hurtled toward Zerathia, the floating cities glinting on the horizon like jewels, but the air crackled with unresolved tension. Awkward alliances formed in the void, humorous mishaps in the heat of battle. Yet the stakes soared, empires teetered, betrayals loomed, and at the center, a human pilot and an alien heiress bound by fate's whimsical hand. Docking protocols engaged automatically as they neared the planet's shield grid, but Thorne's instincts screamed caution. Something's off, he murmured, scanning for anomalies. Sure enough, hidden among the orbital stations, subtle energy signatures betrayed disguised Orvian vessels, an ambush waiting to spring. Lira's violet eyes narrowed. My home, turn trap, we can't land directly. In a burst of inspiration, she accessed her family's override codes, cloaking the Fury as a merchant vessel. But the codes glitched midway, her advisor's sabotage evident, causing the ship's identifier to flicker comically between Earthbound Fury and Love Boat Express. A random human database pull from Thorne's archives. He burst out laughing, the humor cutting through the drama like a laser. Great, now we're arriving in style as a pleasure cruise. If they board us, hope they brought champagne. She swatted his arm playfully, the awkward situation diffusing some fear. Focus, hero, we slip in low through the crystal canyons. Thorne complied, dipping into the atmosphere, the ship buffeted by winds as they navigated glowing ravines where massive crystals hummed with latent power. Deep in the canyons, they evaded patrols, the drama building with each near miss. A sudden rockslide triggered by seismic activity from the mines forced an evasive swerve, slamming Lira into Thorne's lap in an unintentionally intimate tumble. Again, she exclaimed, extricating herself with flushed cheeks, the humor in her eyes belying the peril. Finally, they touched down in a hidden grotto, the Fury concealed under holographic camouflage. Stepping out, the air thick with crystal resonance, Lira turned to him. The mines are close, but entering means facing the heart of the betrayal. Thorne pulled her into a quick embrace, the moment charged. Then let's make it dramatic. As they ventured forth, footsteps echoing in the luminous depths, the galaxy's fate intertwined with their steps, drama heightened, awkward bonds strengthened, and a touch of humor keeping the darkness at bay. The crystal grotto hummed with an otherworldly resonance, the massive formations pulsing like living hearts beneath Zerathia's surface, casting a soft, ethereal light that danced across the cavern walls. Thorne and Lira moved deeper into the mines, their footsteps echoing softly amid the luminous veins of quartz and alien minerals that veined the rock like glowing arteries. The air was cool and charged, carrying a faint, sweet scent of ionized energy that made every breath feel alive. Lira led the way, her torn crimson dress swaying with each step, the rip at the hem adding an unintended allure to her graceful movements. Thorne followed close, his hand occasionally brushing hers, a silent reassurance in the face of the betrayals looming ahead. The mysterious Hale's warning echoed in their minds, a human artifact in these depths, tied to her family's power, and a traitor waiting to strike. As they navigated a narrow passage, the crystals amplifying distant rumbles from the planet's core, Lira paused, turning to him with a vulnerability that softened her regal poise. "Thorne, before we face whatever's down here, I need to feel connected, grounded." Her violet eyes held his, the drama of their journey etching lines of intensity around them. The awkward humor from their escape had faded, replaced by a deeper current, one that pulled them together like gravity wells aligning. He stepped closer, the confined space making their proximity inevitable, his broad frame casting a shadow over her delicate form. "We've come this far," he murmured, his voice low and steady, laced with the earth-born warmth that had drawn her in from the start. His fingers traced the curve of her arm, feeling the faint glow of her skin respond, warming under his touch. The mind's hum seemed to sync with their pulses, heightening the moment's intimacy. Lira leaned into him, her white hair cascading like a silken waterfall as she tilted her head up. "Then let's steal this time," she whispered, her pointed ears flushing that soft pink hue, a sign of her rising emotions. Their lips met in a kiss that started gentle, a tender exploration born of shared perils, but quickly deepened with the passion they'd kindled in the stars. Her hands slid under his jacket, palms pressing against the firm planes of his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart, a rhythm so human, so reassuring in this alien world. Thorne's arms encircled her waist, pulling her flush against him, the fabric of her dress thin enough to let him sense the contours of her body, the elegant swell of her hips, the gentle arch of her back. The kiss grew more fervent, tongues dancing in a rhythm that mirrored the crystal's pulsing light, each touch igniting sparks of desire. He backed her gently against a smooth crystal wall, its cool surface contrasting the heat building between them. Lira's breath hitched as his hands roamed higher, fingers grazing the straps of her dress, slipping them down with careful reverence. The garment pooled at her feet in a whisper of silk, revealing her in the cavern's glow, her porcelain skin shimmering, curves accentuated by the play of light and shadow. She was a vision of ethereal beauty, her form lithe and inviting, small elfin ears twitching with anticipation. Thorne paused, admiration flooding him, his hazel eyes tracing her with a mix of awe and hunger. "You're incredible," he breathed, his voice husky, pulling off his jacket and shirt in fluid motions, exposing the scarred, muscled expanse of his torso marks of battles won, a testament to his resilience. Lira's hands explored him in return, tracing those scars with delicate fingers, each touch sending shivers through them both. She pulled him down to her level, their bodies aligning in a perfect fit, skin against skin in the mind's secluded embrace. The connection was profound, a blend of tenderness and urgency, as they moved together in a dance as old as the universe itself, her legs wrapped around him, drawing him closer, the warmth of her enveloping him in waves of sensation that blurred the line between them. The crystals around them seemed to respond, their hum intensifying, casting a kaleidoscope of colors that bathed their union in a surreal light. Lira's gasps mingled with Thorne's murmurs of encouragement, their movements synchronized, building in intensity like a crescendo in a symphony. He held her with strength tempered by care, his hands supporting her as they found a rhythm that spoke of trust and passion. The world outside, the betrayals, the chases faded into irrelevance, leaving only the two of them, lost in the exquisite pull of each other. Sensations layered upon sensations, the soft press of her breasts against his chest, the slide of her thighs, the way her violet eyes locked onto his, filled with a vulnerability that made the moment even more intimate. Thorne whispered her name like a mantra, his movements deliberate, drawing out the pleasure in a way that left them both breathless. Lira arched into him, her nails lightly scoring his back, not in pain but in ecstasy, her body responding with a glow that lit the cavern brighter. As they reached the peak together, a shared release that washed over them like a stellar wave, the crystals vibrated in harmony. As if the minds themselves approved of this forbidden bond between human and Zerathian, they clung to each other in the afterglow, breaths ragged, bodies slick with the evidence of their connection. Lira rested her head on his shoulder, her white hair tickling his skin, a soft smile playing on her lips. That was more than gratitude. She admitted, her voice a contented sigh. Thorne chuckled softly, pressing a kiss to her forehead, helping her readjust what remained of her dress while he donned his clothes. Yeah, well, humans have a way of turning survival into something worth fighting for. The humor returned lightly, easing them back to reality, but the intimacy lingered, strengthening their resolve. Deeper in the mines, the path widened into a vast chamber, where ancient machinery hummed faintly, relics that hinted at the human artifact the mysterious contact had mentioned. But as they approached, shadows stirred, figures emerging from alcoves, armed guards loyal to the traitor advisor. Lyra's advisor himself stepped forward, a sly Zerathian with calculating eyes, flanked by Orvian mercenaries. "Welcome home, heiress," he sneered, his voice dripping with false politeness. "And your pet, the artifact is mine now. Surrender, and perhaps I'll let you watch as I claim the throne." The drama reignited in a flash, Thorne's hand instinctively reaching for his blaster, Lira standing tall beside him, her post-intimacy glow now a fierce determination. But the advisor raised a device, activating hidden defenses, crystal barriers shimmering into place, trapping them in a glowing arena. "You think a human can outwit Zerathian tech? The artifact amplifies our crystals with your ancient earth frequencies, power enough to control fleets, but it's keyed to pure bloodlines, or so I thought." Thorne glanced at Lira, curiosity sparking amid the tension. Earth frequencies, like our old radio waves or something? The revelation added layers to their bond. What if his presence wasn't coincidence, but destiny woven into the stars? Lira nodded subtly, her mind racing. "We use it against him." As the guards advanced, blasters humming, Thorne and Lira moved as one, their recent closeness translating into seamless coordination. He dodged a shot, using the crystal's reflective surfaces to ricochet his own fire back, taking down a mercenary with precision. Lira activated a hidden panel, her family's secrets at her fingertips, summoning holographic decoys that confused the attackers. The fight was intense, bodies clashing in the chamber's glow. Thorne tackled a guard, his human strength overpowering the alien's tech-enhanced armor, while Lira disarmed another with graceful strikes, her pointed ears attuned to their movements. The advisor laughed maniacally, powering up the artifact, a massive orb pulsing with hybrid energy, blending Zerathian crystals with what looked like ancient earth circuitry, etched with symbols reminiscent of lost civilizations, but in a thrilling twist. As the advisor attuned it, the device rebelled, overloading from incompatible frequencies. Thorne realized, "It's reacting to me." His proximity, his human essence, disrupted the balance. Seizing the moment, he charged forward, Lira covering him with suppressive fire. He slammed his fist into the orb's control nexus, channeling raw determination, the artifact exploding in a controlled burst that neutralized the guard's weapons and stunned the advisor. They bound him quickly, the chamber falling silent save for the crystal's fading hum. Lira retrieved a data core from the artifact's remains, her eyes wide with surprise. "This confirms it, the human link. Your people visited eons ago, leaving tech that merged with our world. You're part of our history." Thorne pulled her close again, the intimacy from earlier echoing in his embrace. "Then let's write the next chapter." But as they prepared to surface, a new alert from her comm device pinged, an incoming fleet from Orvian, drawn by the advisor's signal. The battle for Zerathia was far from over. Venturing upward, they emerged into the floating city's underbelly, alarms blaring as enemy ships dotted the skies. Lira rallied loyal forces via encrypted channels, her voice commanding respect. Thorne, now her unwavering ally, prepped the Fury for aerial support, their bond a beacon amid the chaos. In the heart of the capital spire, they confronted her uncle, an imposing figure in opulent robes, surrounded by turncoat elites. "You bring a human to claim my prize," he bellowed, activating defense drones that swarmed like angry insects. The climax built dramatically. Thorne and Lira fighting back to back, his blaster felling drones while her knowledge deactivated others, in a surprising move. Thorne interfaced his ship's AI with the Spire's systems, human ingenuity hacking alien protocols, causing a cascade failure that grounded the Uncle's escape pod. Cornered, the Uncle revealed his desperation. The artifact was to forge an alliance with humans, your kind's return was prophesied, but I wanted it for power, not partnership. Lyra's eyes met Thorne's, curiosity blooming into realization. Their connection wasn't chance. It was fulfillment of ancient bonds. With a final surge, they subdued him, securing the throne and averting the invasion as loyal fleets arrived. In the aftermath, atop the spire overlooking Zerathia's glittering vistas, Lira turned to Thorne. "Stay with me," she said, echoing her initial proposition, but now laced with deeper meaning. Not just for the night, but for the stars. He smiled, pulling her into an embrace that promised forever. Wouldn't have it any other way. Their journey, from Brawl to galactic triumph, sealed in a kiss under alien skies, a testament to humanity's unyielding spirit. But as peace settled, a faint signal from the artifact's core hummed, a message from Earth's lost explorers, hinting at more adventures ahead. The galaxy beckoned, their love the ultimate conquest. The shuttle's engines thrummed with a steady vibration as it ascended through Zerathia's layered atmosphere, the floating cities rising like jeweled islands amid swirling clouds of iridescent mist. Thorne gripped the controls, his focus split between navigating the turbulent updrafts and processing the cryptic message that still hovered on the holographic display. The true power lies in the union of bloodlines, human and Zerathian. The words lingered like an unsolved riddle, their implications teasing at the edges of his mind. Lira sat beside him, her white hair slightly disheveled from their recent exertions in the mines, her violet eyes scanning the data core they'd retrieved from the artifact. The intimacy they'd shared below ground had forged an even stronger link between them, a quiet understanding that needed no words. But now the galaxy's machinations intruded once more, pulling them toward the capital spire where battles raged and loyalties fractured. "Who sent that?" Thorne asked, his voice cutting through the hum, laced with the cautious edge of a pilot who'd learned to question every anomaly. He adjusted their trajectory to evade a patrol drone, the shuttle dipping gracefully through a bank of clouds that shimmered with embedded crystals, reflecting the ongoing skirmishes in the skies above, flashes of laser fire painting the horizon in stark reds and blues. Lira shook her head, her pointed ears twitching as she cross-referenced the signal's origin with her family's encrypted databases. "It's masked, but the signature matches ancient protocols from the artifact itself, almost like a programmed revelation triggered by our proximity." She leaned closer to him, her hand resting on his thigh, a familiar touch that grounded them both amid the uncertainty. The shuttle's cabin felt intimate, a bubble of calm in the storm, her presence a reminder of how far they'd come from that chaotic bar on the outer rim. If it's about bloodlines, perhaps it means a ritual alliance. Zerathian history speaks of mergers with other species to unlock crystal potentials, but humans? That would explain the Earth-tech fusion. Thorne nodded, though a knot of unease tightened in his chest. The idea resonated strangely, stirring memories he'd long buried, tales from his grandfather about lost expeditions, ships vanishing into the void centuries ago, carrying humanity's first steps beyond the solar system. He pushed the thought aside, focusing on the spire looming ahead, its towering structure a beacon of Zerathian architecture, spiraling upward like a crystal helix pierced by defensive turrets that spat fire at incoming Orvian vessels. "Whatever it is, we handle it together. Your loyalists are waiting. Let's turn this invasion around." As they docked in a concealed bay at the spire's base, evading enemy sensors with Lyra's override codes, the airlock hissed open to reveal a squad of Zerathian guards, loyal ones, their uniforms emblazoned with the Kane dynasty crest. They saluted sharply, ushering the pair through secured corridors lined with glowing panels that pulsed like veins. The capital was a hive of activity, strategists huddled over holographic maps, technicians repairing damaged shields, and civilians taking shelter in reinforced chambers. Lira moved with authority, issuing commands that rallied her forces, her voice carrying the weight of her heritage. Thorne stayed by her side, his human perspective offering fresh tactics, suggesting guerrilla strikes using the floating city's mobility to outflank the fleet. They reached the command center, a vast dome overlooking the besieged skies, where her remaining elders awaited. The room buzzed with tension. Projections showing Orvian ships bombarding outer defenses, their formations tightening like a noose. The elder from the earlier hologram stepped forward, his aged features etched with relief. Heiress, you've returned with the core, and the human, your presence is timely. He gestured to a central pedestal, where the artifact's data was uploaded, interfacing with the Spire's systems. The chamber lit up as simulations ran, the weapon's potential to amplify crystal energies into a planetary shield, repelling invaders with harmonic waves tuned to human frequencies. Lira's brow furrowed. Explain the bloodline union. The message, it's key, isn't it? The elder nodded gravely, activating a hidden archive. Holograms bloomed, ancient records of Earth vessels arriving eons ago, humans trading knowledge with Zerathian forebears, forging pacts sealed not just in tech, but in lineage. The true power activates only through a bonded pair, one Zerathian royal, one of human descent. Their union resonates with the crystals, unlocking unlimited energy. Without it, the artifact is a mere enhancer. With it, we could end this war and beyond. Thorne felt the room shift, eyes turning to him as if he were a puzzle piece slotting into place. Lira's hand tightened on his, her violet gaze searching his face with a mix of hope and curiosity. Thorne, could you be your resilience? The way the artifact reacted to you in the mines, it's as if you're connected. He opened his mouth to respond, but a sudden alert pierced the air. Enemy breach in the lower levels. Orvian commandos had infiltrated, led by her uncle's elite forces, blasting through security grids. Chaos erupted, guards scrambling, elders evacuating. Thorne drew his blaster, pulling Lira behind cover as bolts scorched the walls. We finish this later, survive first. The fight spilled into the corridors, a whirlwind of close-quarters combat. Thorne's human agility shone, dodging plasma fire and countering with precise shots that felled armored foes. Lira fought beside him, her graceful strikes disarming attackers, their synergy a deadly ballet honed from shared perils. They pushed back the intruders, sealing bulkheads, but her uncle's voice boomed over hacked comms. Surrender the human, Lira. He's the key and not who you think. The words planted a seed of doubt, but Thorne shoved it down, focusing on the battle. They reached a secure vault, where the artifact's physical remnant was stored, a glowing orb that hummed louder in his presence. As Lira interfaced it with the Spire's core, the elder joined them, breathless, to activate fully. The union must be consummated, a ritual of minds and bodies, blending essences. Lira blushed faintly, her pointed ears pinkening, but nodded resolutely. If it saves Zerathia? She turned to Thorne, vulnerability in her eyes. Are you willing? He took her hands, the connection electric. For you, always. They stepped into the ritual chamber adjacent, a sacred space ringed by crystals that amplified energies. The process began with a shared meditation, their foreheads touching, minds linking through the artifact's field, visions flashing of ancient humans and Zerathians forging peace. Then, the physical bond, clothes shed in reverence, bodies entwining in a dance of passion that echoed their earlier moments but now charged with cosmic purpose. Thorne's touch was tender yet fervent, exploring her glowing skin, feeling the crystals respond, vibrations syncing with their rhythms. Lira arched into him, gasps mingling as they united, the chamber blazing with light, power surging through them like a stellar current. As the ritual peaked, energies coalescing in a euphoric release, the twist struck like a bolt from the void. Visions sharpened, Thorne's lineage unveiled not just any human, but a direct descendant of those ancient explorers, his DNA carrying dormant codes planted for this very era. But deeper, a shocking revelation, the elder's face morphed in the hologram, revealing himself as a holographic facade. The real elder was an AI construct, programmed by her uncle years ago to manipulate the prophecy. The Union hadn't empowered the crystals for defense, it had unlocked a backdoor, allowing Orvian forces to hijack the Spire's systems from within. Thorne's eyes snapped open, horror dawning as alarms wailed, enemy troops flooding the levels, shields dropping. Lira pulled away, confusion etching her features. What? How? The elder's hologram flickered to life, her uncle's face replacing it with a triumphant sneer. Fools! The bloodline union was my design, a trap to bind the human's essence and seize control. Your passion just handed me the empire. Betrayal crashed over them, surprising in its depth. The ritual, meant for salvation, twisted into a weapon against them. Naked and vulnerable in the chamber, Thorne grabbed his blaster, shielding Lira as doors burst open. commandos storming in. "We fight out of this," he growled. His human tenacity igniting despite the shock, they dodged into side passages, reclaiming clothes and weapons on the fly, the spire now a labyrinth of turned allies and hacked defenses. As they evaded capture, Lira's mind raced. "The artifact, it's corrupted now, but your bloodline, maybe we can reverse it." Thorne nodded, the twist fueling a fierce determination. They linked up with pockets of true loyalists, striking back in guerrilla hits, turning the capital into a battlefield. The powerful revelation reshaped everything. Thorne's heritage wasn't coincidence. It was engineered fate, manipulated by her uncle to orchestrate this coup. Yet in the surprise lay opportunity. His unique DNA could be the key to undoing the hack. They pressed on, the invasion intensifying, skies filled with descending dropships. In a hidden alcove, catching their breath, Lira cupped his face. "Even twisted, our union, it felt real." Thorne kissed her fiercely. "It is real, and we'll use it to win." The fight escalated, dramatic reversals unfolding as they rallied, the twist propelling them toward a desperate counterstrike. Her uncle's forces closed in, but Thorne's awakening heritage sparked anomalies in the systems, glitches that hinted at reclaiming control, as they stormed toward the core, where the artifact pulsed under enemy guard. The galaxy held its breath, the surprise twist unraveling threads of destiny in unexpected ways. The corridors of the spire twisted like a labyrinthine serpent, echoing with the distant thunder of blaster fire and the frantic shouts of clashing forces as Thorne and Lira charged toward the core reactor. The artifact's corrupted pulse throbbed through the walls, a rhythmic heartbeat that seemed to mock their every step. Its energy now twisted under her uncle's control, fueling the invasion with relentless efficiency. Thorne's mind reeled from the revelation, his bloodline engineered, their intimate ritual hijacked into a trap, but he channeled the shock into fuel. His grip tight on Lira's hand as they dodged patrols, loyalists falling in behind them like shadows rallying to a flame. The drama escalated with each corner turned, the air thick with ozone from overloaded circuits and the metallic tang of blood. Zerathia's fate balancing on the edge of their desperate gambit. Lira's violet eyes flashed with a fierce mix of betrayal and resolve, her white hair streaming behind her like a banner of defiance as she led the way through hidden access tunnels she knew from childhood games in these very halls. "The reactor's safeguards are failing," she panted, her pointed ears attuned to the subtle shifts in the spire's hum. "If we don't reclaim the artifact, it'll overload, take the whole capital with it." Her voice carried the weight of an empire's air, but beneath it lingered the raw vulnerability from their ritual, a bond now tainted yet unbreakable. Thorne squeezed her hand, his human humor surfacing as a lifeline amid the chaos. "Great, so we're running into a ticking bomb. Reminds me of that time I fixed my ship's core with duct tape and prayers. Worked then, mostly." He flashed a grin, though his hazel eyes scanned for threats, blaster at the ready. The quip drew a reluctant smile from her, lightening the tension just enough to keep them moving, but the awkward undercurrent of their recent union hung between them like an unspoken echo, intimacy turned weapon. Their passion upon in her uncle's game, they burst into a maintenance bay, only to skid to a halt as a squad of Orvian commandos ambushed from overhead catwalks, their scaled armor glinting under emergency lights. Bolts sizzled past, scorching the floor as Thorne shoved Lira behind a crate stack, returning fire with pinpoint accuracy that dropped two assailants in quick succession. "Stay low," he barked, but in the scramble, Lira's foot caught on a loose cable, sending her tumbling into him with an undignified yelp. They collapsed in a heap, her body pressed against his in a tangle of limbs that was equal parts protective and embarrassingly intimate, her crimson dress hiking up awkwardly amid the debris. "Really? Now?" Thorne muttered, his face inches from hers, a flush creeping up his neck despite the gunfire whizzing overhead. Lira's cheeks burned that soft pink, her pointed ears flattening in mortification as she extricated herself, but she couldn't suppress a breathless laugh. Humans and their timing always turning peril into this. The awkward moment injected a spark of humor, diffusing the immediate panic, and they rolled apart, Thorne covering her as she hacked a nearby turret to turn on the commandos. The automated gun whirred to life, mowing down the attackers in a hail of plasma, their roars turning to gurgles as the bay fell silent save for the artifact's ominous thrum. Shaking off the embarrassment, they pressed on, loyalists catching up to form a ragtag escort, Zerathian warriors with elegant energy blades clashing against Orvian brutes in brutal melee. The drama heightened as they neared the reactor antechamber, alarms blaring a countdown to critical mass. red lights strobing like a heartbeat gone mad. Her uncle's voice echoed over the intercom, taunting and triumphant. "You can't stop it now, niece. The human's essence fuels my victory, your little ritual sealed it. Surrender, and I'll make your end quick." Lyra's jaw tightened, her hand brushing Thorne's arm in a silent vow. "He's wrong. Our bond is ours, not his tool." They stormed the antechamber doors, blasting through security fields that crackled with corrupted energy. Inside, the reactor loomed, a colossal chamber where the artifact orb floated in a containment field, pulsing with hybrid light, guarded by elite Orvian enforcers and automated drones that swarmed like angry hornets. The air shimmered with heat distortion, the overload building to a fever pitch that made the floor vibrate underfoot. Thorne assessed the scene in a heartbeat, his earthborn ingenuity kicking in. Drones first, take the high ground. He vaulted onto a console, firing upward to disrupt their formations, but a stray bolt grazed his shoulder, sending him crashing down in an awkward sprawl atop a pile of diagnostic equipment. Tools scattered everywhere, one comically lodging in his boot like a makeshift spur. "Oh, son of a, who designs these things?" he grumbled, yanking it free as Lira suppressed a giggle amid the gunfire, her own shots elegant and precise, downing a drone that exploded in midair. The humor was fleeting, swallowed by the escalating drama as enforcers closed in, their leader a hulking Orvian with jagged horns, charging Thorne with a vibro axe swinging. "Human scum, your blood ends here." Thorne dodged, using the scattered tools to his advantage, hurling a wrench that clanged off the brute's helmet with a resonant twang, staggering him long enough for a point-blank shot to the knee. The enforcer crumpled, but not before clipping Thorne's leg, sending him limping into Lyra's path. She caught him mid-stumble, their faces colliding in an unintended near-kiss, her white hair tickling his nose. "Watch it, hero," she teased breathlessly, but her eyes held worry. The awkward intimacy a stark contrast to the violence around them. Pushing through the pain, they coordinated with the Loyalists, turning the chamber into a whirlwind of combat, blades clashing, drones detonating in fiery bursts, the artifact's pulse growing erratic as Thorne's presence interfered with its hijacked code. Drama peaked as her uncle materialized via hologram, larger than life, his face twisted in rage. "You think you can reclaim it? The Union's power is mine." He triggered a surge, the orb flaring wildly, energy arcs lashing out like whips. One arc struck a Loyalist, vaporizing him in an instant, heightening the stakes to a razor edge. Lira cried out, diving for cover as Thorne improvised, grabbing a conductive rod from the debris. He jabbed it into a control panel, creating a feedback loop that disrupted the field. "Come on, you ancient hunk of junk, fight back." The orb sputtered, its light flickering as his DNA codes clashed with the corruption, but the effort left him exposed. An enforcer lunged, tackling him to the ground in a bone-jarring thud, the two rolling in a messy grapple that ended with Thorne pinned, the alien's claws at his throat. Lira acted fast, leaping onto the enforcer's back with surprising ferocity, her nails digging into pressure points that made the brute howl. "Get off him." The scene bordered on absurd, elegant heiress turned wildcat wrestler, but it worked, the distraction allowing Thorne to reverse the hold, slamming the enforcer into unconsciousness. Panting, he helped her up, their hands lingering a beat too long, awkward in the aftermath of such raw physicality. "Thanks for the save, didn't know you had that in you." He quipped, wiping blood from his lip. She smoothed her dress, torn further now, a wry smile breaking through. Zerathian royalty full of surprises, like humans and their endless quips. The light moment bolstered them, but the reactor's whine grew deafening. The overload imminent, with Loyalists holding the line. Thorne and Lira approached the orb, her fingers flying over a portable console to initiate a purge protocol. "Your bloodline, focus on it, will it to reject the hack." He placed his hand on the containment field, the energy coursing through him like liquid fire, visions flashing of ancient humans sealing pacts with Zerathian's peace, not conquest. The drama intensified as the orb resisted, arcs lashing out, one singeing Lyra's arm and drawing a pained gasp. "Thorne, it's fighting." Her uncle's hologram roared in frustration, his control slipping. In a climactic surge, Thorne poured his will into it, human essence overriding the twist. The orb stabilized, purging the corruption in a brilliant cascade, systems rebooting under Lyra's command, defenses reactivated planet-wide, repelling the fleet with harmonic waves that shattered Orvian shields. Her uncle's image flickered out with a final curse, his flagship retreating in disarray, but as victory loomed, An awkward complication arose. The purge triggered a lockdown, sealing the chamber doors with them inside. The reactor's heat building uncomfortably. Lira, any chance this thing has an off switch? Thorne asked, sweat beading on his brow, the situation turning from triumphant to comically trapped. She worked frantically, but paused to laugh softly. Patience, human, or should I say, destined one? They shared a look, the drama ebbing into relief, awkward bonds strengthening amid the humor of their predicament. Loyalists breached the doors moments later, freeing them to the cheers of Zerathia's defenders. As they emerged to the spire's apex, overlooking the retreating invaders, Lira turned to him. We did it, but your heritage, there's more to uncover. Thorne pulled her close, the galaxy's shadows receding, but new mysteries beckoning. The spire's apex offered a breathtaking panorama of Zerathia reclaiming its serenity, the floating cities drifting like luminous clouds under a sky now clearing of enemy vessels, their retreating forms mere specks against the vast canvas of stars. Thorne stood with Lira at the balcony's edge, the cool breeze carrying the faint chime of crystal resonances from below, a symphony of restoration as repair drones buzzed through the air, mending the scars of battle. Her hand remained in his, warm and steady, a tether that had pulled them through betrayals and twists, their bond evolving from an impulsive rescue to something profound, unbreakable. The artifact's purge had turned the tide, its energies now harmonized under loyal control, shielding the planet and sending shockwaves through the Orvian fleet that forced a hasty withdrawal. But as the adrenaline faded, the weight of unanswered questions settled like twilight shadows. Thorne's heritage, the ancient pacts between humans and Zerathians, and what it all meant for their future. Lira leaned against him, her white hair catching the fading light of the dual suns, casting her in a halo that made her seem more goddess than heiress. The elders, the real ones, will convene soon, she said softly, her violet eyes tracing the horizon where the last Orvian ship vanished into hyperspace. Your bloodline changes everything. Those ancient visitors from Earth, they weren't just explorers, they were kin, forging alliances that echo in you. We could bridge our worlds, Thorne, humanity and Zerathia, united against whatever threats linger in the void. He wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her closer, the familiar curve of her body fitting against his like a puzzle piece long lost and now found. The drama of the day had left him weary, his shoulder throbbing from the graze, but a quiet triumph burned in his chest, human tenacity proving once again that even in a galaxy of advanced aliens, Earth's children could tip the scales. Bridge worlds, sounds like a tall order for a simple pilot, but if it means staying by your side, count me in. His voice held that rugged warmth, laced with the humor that had carried them through awkward tumbles and near disasters, but now it deepened with sincerity, the proposition from that fateful bar evolving into a promise of partnership. As they stood there, the spire's systems hummed back to full life, holographic displays flickering on around them with reports of victory, loyal forces securing the mines, her uncle's remnants captured in a daring raid led by the same guards who'd escorted them earlier. Cheers echoed from lower levels, Zerathians emerging from shelters to celebrate, their melodic voices rising in songs of gratitude. Lira turned to face him fully, her pointed ears perking with a mix of emotion, her porcelain skin glowing faintly in the twilight. You know, when I asked if you'd stay if I undressed, I never imagined it would lead to saving an empire, or falling for a human who turns chaos into charm. Thorne chuckled, a deep sound that rumbled through them both, his hazel eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that spoke volumes. And I never thought rescuing a mysterious beauty in a bar would rewrite my destiny. But here we are, me, a descendant of starfarers, you, the galaxy's richest heiress, teaming up to conquer more than just assassins. He brushed a strand of her hair behind her ear, his touch lingering, evoking memories of their stolen moments amid the stars and crystals. The awkwardness of their earlier entanglements, the tumbles, the mishaps now felt like fond anecdotes, threads in the tapestry of their story. Below, the celebrations grew, fireworks of crystal energy bursting in the skies, painting the night in vibrant hues that mirrored the nebula where their journey had intensified. Lira's advisors approached then, a procession of elders in flowing robes, their faces etched with respect as they bowed. Heiress Kane, the throne is secure, and the human, your consort, the archives confirm his lineage. The union can be formalized, unlocking further potentials in our tech, defenses, explorations, perhaps even reaching back to Earth. The word consort hung in the air, dramatic in its implication, but Lira glanced at Thorne with a playful spark. Consort. Sounds a bit formal for a guy who jury-rigs ships with whatever's handy. She squeezed his hand, turning to the elders. But yes, if he's willing, Thorne isn't just a hero, he's the bridge we need. He raised an eyebrow, humor glinting in his eyes. Consort, eh? Does that come with a crown, or just more bar brawls? The elders exchanged puzzled looks at the jest, their alien poise unbroken, but Lira laughed, a clear, joyful sound that cut through any remaining tension. No crown, but plenty of adventures, and maybe a proper ship upgrade, no more duct tape. As the formalities unfolded, Thorne and Lira stepped aside for a private moment, the balcony offering solitude amid the festivities. He pulled her into a gentle embrace, their foreheads touching as they had in the ritual, but now free of manipulation, pure and true. Seriously, Lira, this is big. Leaving my old life, committing to yours, but after everything, the chases, the fights, the way you've made me feel alive in ways the stars never could, I'm ready. Humanity's edge isn't just survival, it's connection, and with you, I feel like we can take on the galaxy. She tilted her head, her lips brushing his in a soft kiss that sealed the sentiment, her body pressing close with the familiarity of lovers who'd faced oblivion together. Then let's make it official. Not just for the power, but for us. The Richest Heiress and her heroic pilot, a story that'll echo through the sectors. The elders returned, guiding them to a ceremonial chamber where the artifact's core, now purified, awaited, in a ritual stripped of deception. They linked hands over the orb, their essences blending in a glow that resonated through Zerathia, strengthening shields, awakening dormant tech that hinted at interstellar gates to Earth. Visions flashed, human colonies thriving, alliances blooming, a future where species united against cosmic threats. Thorne's heritage activated fully, his DNA unlocking archives of lost knowledge, from advanced drives to healing crystals, gifts for both worlds. As the ceremony concluded, the crowd erupted in applause, Zerathians and a scattering of off-world allies toasting the new era. Lira, now fully enthroned with Thorne at her side, addressed them from the spire's pinnacle. Today, we honor not just victory, but unity. With our human ally, my partner, we forge a path forward, where strength comes from hearts intertwined. Thorne stood tall beside her, the weight of his jacket feeling lighter, his scars badges of honor in this new chapter. The galaxy stretched endless before them, but for the first time, it felt like home. Adventures awaited, exploring the human links, repelling lingering foes. Perhaps journeying to Earth, but with Lira, every challenge was an opportunity, every moment a triumph of the human spirit amplified by love. In the quiet hours that followed, as they retired to her private quarters overlooking the crystalline seas, Thorne held her close under the starlit canopy. "Will you stay?" she whispered, echoing her first words, but now with layers of meaning. He smiled, drawing her into a lingering kiss. "Always, undressed or armored, through brawls or banquets, I'm yours." And so, in the heart of Zerathia, a human pilot and an alien heiress wove their fates together. A beacon of HFY resilience and romance that inspired tales across the stars, proving that even in the vast unknown, love could conquer all.